Hello again, and welcome to another study bin video. Today we're going to be studying something that's been a little bit more difficult for me, which is different angles for the head. So generally speaking, most of my faces for a very long time looked pretty flat. So doing something like this is really good practice for me to give me a little bit more freedom when I'm trying to compose like a shot for a comic panel or an animatic, posing just for a illustration in general. So as I'm not limited that way to basically just the three angles that I draw on, which is side view, front on, and 3/4 view. So now I could do under the face or on top, etc. There's so many more possibilities. So the program we're using for our reference images today is called Design Doll. It's free to download as far as I'm aware. I picked this one up because it had a more chibi-like head style on default, so like this one is really useful for Carrot, which is the character that I wanted to draw for this study specifically. I wanted to go with a chibi head style just because I do know a rough idea of like how the human head looks when it's drawn, but chibi heads are a little bit less anatomically correct, so I thought it'd be a good study to see how I could try and do that, especially since like I have very simplistic characters and can't draw them in those types of angles, so this is going to be quite useful. So I've taken a few screenshots of a couple of different angles that I like. As you can see, I'm currently sketching over the top in a red color. This is to help me define the most important features specifically for me, so that I can attempt to replicate it without too much of a struggle. Not everyone needs to do this. This is just something that I find helps me out a little bit. So that I can kind of tell where everything is just that tiny bit easier. So as you can see with this one, I pretty much draw every face with a circle first. This doesn't really happen when I'm trying to draw more realistic characters, but because this is a chibi head, the circles are basically the most ideal shape that I could use to start with. Then there's a line down the face to direct where the nose will go and like the plane shape of the front of the face. And then there's one going horizontally, so I can place the eyes and they're not like horribly skewed and not on the same plane. So Carrot was probably one of my more difficult characters I could have picked. He's extremely simple, but he's never really had a solid anatomy. So trying to make him look 3D has been very difficult here. We're adding in some shadows. These pretty much just help define areas that you can't put a solid line in. Like when the chin is raised, putting like a really thick solid line, or even just a line in general, kind of makes it look a little bit weird and chunky, or like too masculine and sharp. So it tends to look a little bit nicer and more natural if you just put like a really simple shadow instead. All these shadows just help it make it feel a little bit more like it's got a solid form and it feels more 3D. The more you understand like how everything is like shaped, the easier it becomes to put like a shadow in because you know how to define that shape. So I actually finished by this point. It was a really quick study, but I'd colored my sketched ones and they kind of just lacked that crisp finished feel. So I ended up going back and I line arted them all and then I colored them all in and shaded them as well. So I did notice that like I do lack a little bit of consistency on Carrot's face specifically. So there are like points where he doesn't feel quite right at a certain angle, but that'll come down to practice and getting used to that. So at some point I will come back to this study and I'll redo it and we'll see how far I've come like in a couple of months time. I'd also like to do another 2 studies of the same concept, but like of a more masculine face and one of a more feminine face. So I'll probably use 2 of my other OCs for stuff like that. But there's some good differences between those kinds of faces that, I mean, like, I imagine most people struggle with them realistically, but like, yeah, I struggle with them quite a lot, so it's stuff I definitely want to learn. Okay, so overall this study took me about an hour. It wasn't a hugely long study, mostly kind of just quick sketches and then a little bit less obviously when I decided to color them in. But the whole idea was to just get a feel for being able to draw a chibi head with like an actual chin, instead of it just being like a flat surface like it used to be. Same with the nose, because I ended up giving him a little bit more of a muzzle, which is not really what you give a rabbit, but it looks cute and it kind of still fits his design quite well, so I kept that in as well. So all in all, I'm actually quite happy with how these turned out. Carrot now has a little bit more of a defined form that I can use when I'm drawing him in comic panels. And I'm looking forward to like coming back to this study at some point and doing it again. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. As usual, if you want to follow along and work on like the same study as me, by all means, please do. I'd love to see any work you make, so feel free to send it to me via Instagram or Twitter. I'm BinOfTrash1 on Twitter and BinOfTrash on Instagram. If you have a suggestion for what my next study should be, please comment below. I definitely will be reading as many as I can because it's exciting doing like art studies. I know it doesn't sound like it should be exciting, but for me it's exciting, so I'm excited, yay. So I look forward to learning with all of you, and I shall see you guys later. Bye!